Hello everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of our First John study. We have a few cool things to look at in the text, so let's jump right in and look at the text. So, yesterday, I had you look up and find all the occurrences of truth, lies, and abide, and of course their various different ways that those words are framed. What we found is truth is mentioned consistently throughout the book. Chapter 1, 2 occurrences, chapter 2, 6 occurrences, chapter 3, 2 occurrences, chapter 4, 1 occurrence, and chapter 5, 2 occurrences. Lies or liar were very similar. Chapter 1, 2 occurrences, chapter 2, 4 occurrences, no occurrences in chapter 3, and then one each in chapter 4 and 5. Finally, well, before we go on to abide, let's look at something interesting about truth and lies. I don't know if you noticed this, but awful lot of time in our text, truth and lies or liars are mentioned right next to each other. Of course, this section, they're mentioned together. If we say we have fellowship with him while we walk in darkness, we lie and do not practice the truth. So there's this clear contrast between lies and truth. Then, as we move into chapter 2, we see liar and truth right next to each other again. Again, we see John pulling this contrast between lies and truth very, very clearly. We go on to the rest of chapter 2, and we see here again, I write to you not because you do not know the truth, but because you know it, and because no lie is of the truth. See this close contrast between lies and truth throughout the book, and it continues. Verse 27, and then on into chapter 4. We don't have as many occurrences. We see truth appear in chapter 3, truth here, but it doesn't have lies right next to it. But you notice what it does have right next to it. It has error. Now, you may be asking, why did we not highlight error along with lies? Well, I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler. Later on, we're going to be doing some word studies. But for now, I want to point out we're doing that because error is a different Greek word than the Greek word for lie or liar. So we didn't highlight it in this go-around. Again, down here we see liar again, but this time it doesn't have truth right next to it. It says if anyone says I love God and hates his brother, he is a liar, for he does not love his brother whom he cannot see, or who he can see. Sorry, let me start it. For he who does not love his brother whom he has seen cannot love God whom he has not seen. So while that doesn't have the word truth next to it, we do see the idea of truth there with believing in God and loving your brother. Finally, last chapter, we have one occurrence of liar and a few occurrences of truth. But this one's interesting because the English language throws us a curveball here. You notice in verse 19 we have lies. But the word there is not the same as speaking falsehood. It says, we know that we are from God, and the whole world lies in the power of the evil one. That English word lies, which is spelled the exact same as the other versions of lies we have, means something different. It's from a different Greek word. Of course, when we were looking at lies before, it is speaking falsehood. Here, that word lies refers to someone who is living or who has fallen into the grasp of the evil one. The whole world lies. It's in the grasp of the evil one. So, same English word, English spelling, I should say, but a different word altogether. Okay, now let's go back and let's look at abide. Remember, the other word I had you look up was abide. And abide is interesting because we don't have any occurrences in chapter 1 or chapter 5. But in between, in chapter 2, 3, and 4, we have a ton of occurrences. In fact, You tally them all up, and there's 40 occurrences of abide in the whole book. Now compare that to love. There's 42 occurrences of love in the book. So abide is mentioned almost as much as love. So if that is the case, since that's the case, we see that John is making a huge case about abiding. Now, we are just about out of time, but what I want you to think about today as you're looking at this is, why does he make such a big deal out of abiding? Think about it, maybe write down some ideas, and we're going to talk about that in a later study. Now I'm going to bring the camera up to my face again. Actually, no, we're going to leave it down there. So, for your next assignment, for our next video, I want you to find sin, sinning, command, commandment, and life. Now we're almost done with the highlighting portion of this study. We are going to do one more round of this after this section. Sin, sinning, command, commandment, and life. Highlight those. We'll talk about those tomorrow. And then we're going to move on to one more round before we get into talking about some other aspects besides simply highlighting. Thank you. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe.